Are electric cars, EVs, really the way of the future for transportation, or are there underlying issues that can change the story? Come along as we explore the contentious discussion around EVs and reveal some surprising hidden facts. Have you ever considered the constraints of the infrastructure for charging EV batteries or the true environmental impact of these batteries? What about EVs' accessibility and cost for all societal groups? Join us as we investigate these important issues and dispel frequent misconceptions about EVs. Prepare to reevaluate mobility's future as a result of this fascinating voyage. Charging infrastructure. An essential component of the mass adoption of electric cars, EVs, is charging infrastructure. But there's still a long way to go. The main obstacle is dealing with range anxiety, which is a widespread worry among customers about the accessibility and availability of charging stations. There are still coverage gaps in spite of efforts to increase the number of charging networks, such as the installation of fast charging stations in cities and along roads. For EV drivers, this breeds uncertainty, especially on lengthy trips when the threat of running out of gas without a nearby charging station looms large. Furthermore, the problem is made worse by regional differences in the development of charging infrastructure, which leaves some places underdeveloped and prevents EVs from becoming widely accepted. Convenience and charging speed are other important variables that affect customer behavior and EV adoption. Even though fast charging technology has advanced and can now charge devices much faster, there are still issues with expanding infrastructure to keep up with demand. Furthermore, since different standards and connectors are used in different areas and charging networks, EV owners may encounter difficulties with the compatibility and interoperability of charging stations. Customers' charging experiences are made more difficult by this fragmentation, which makes it necessary for them to switch between numerous networks and subscription services in order to access charging facilities, thereby discouraging uptake. To tackle the issue of charging infrastructure, governments, automakers, and energy providers must work together to invest in the construction of an extensive and compatible network of charge stations. This entails providing incentives for the installation of charging stations in underserved areas, standardized charging procedures to increase interoperability and user-friendliness, and utilizing technology to raise the infrastructure's dependability and effectiveness. Furthermore, integrating renewable energy sources and smart grid technologies can lower carbon emissions while improving the resilience and sustainability of charging networks. The shift to electric mobility can be sped up by overcoming these obstacles and making significant investments in a reliable charging infrastructure, opening the door to a more accessible and sustainable mode of transportation in the future. Environmental impact. The effects of electric vehicles, EVs, on the environment are a subject of intense discussion and analysis, with opposing viewpoints from both supporters and detractors. On the one hand, electric cars, EVs, are frequently promoted as a greener option to conventional internal combustion engine vehicles. They are praised for their ability to lower greenhouse gas emissions and fight air pollution. Proponents of electric cars, EVs, contend that switching from gasoline-powered vehicles to EVs can help reduce the environmental effects of transportation, especially in metropolitan areas where air quality is a major concern. Furthermore, EVs have the potential to lessen dependency on fossil fuels and help us move toward a more sustainable energy future, especially when they are fueled by renewable energy sources like solar or wind. EVs have environmental advantages, but there are drawbacks and complications as well. The environmental impact of producing EV batteries, which depend on scarce and limited materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, is an important factor to take into account. Carbon emissions, water pollution, and habitat destruction are just a few of the negative environmental effects that may result from the extraction and processing of these raw resources. Furthermore, with accusations of violations of human rights and environmental damage in some mining areas, questions have been raised concerning the moral implications of mining activities in the regions where these resources are sourced. Moreover, the effects of EVs on the environment go beyond their manufacture and encompass things like electricity production and disposal at the end of their useful lives. Although electric vehicles, EVs, emit no tailpipe emissions when in use, the environmental impact of charging them is contingent upon the energy sources employed. The total emissions of electric cars, EVs, may be higher than those of conventional vehicles in areas where the majority of the power generated is produced from fossil fuels, such as coal or natural gas. In addition, because recycling technologies are still in their infancy and incorrect disposal can result in pollution and hazardous waste, disposing of EV batteries at the end of their useful lives presents environmental challenges. Even if electric cars have a lot of potential as a greener and more sustainable form of transportation, their effects on the environment are complex and varied. Even though batteries can lessen air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, there are still issues with the environmental impact of battery manufacturing, power production, and end-of-life disposal. The resolution of these obstacles necessitates an all-encompassing strategy that takes into account the complete lifespan of electric vehicles and underscores the need of shifting towards sustainable energy sources and executing conscientious resource management methodologies. Affordability and accessibility. Accessibility and affordability are important aspects driving the general uptake of electric vehicles, EVs, but they also pose serious obstacles that need to be overcome. The higher initial cost of EVs relative to conventional gasoline-powered vehicles is one of the main obstacles to their adoption. Even while EV prices have been declining recently, the high cost of battery technology means that EVs are still often more expensive. Customers who have lesser salaries in particular may be discouraged from purchasing electric vehicles, EVs, due to this initial cost. Concerns around battery deterioration and replacement expenses further add to the impression that owning an EV will be expensive. Furthermore, not all geographic areas and population segments have equal access to EVs. Access to infrastructure for charging may be restricted in some places, especially in isolated or rural areas with a dearth of charging stations. Potential EV purchasers who are worried about range anxiety and the ease of charging may be turned off by this lack of infrastructure. Additionally, regional differences in government subsidies and incentives for EVs have an impact on the pricing and accessibility of these vehicles for consumers. Lower-income people may be priced out of the EV market in areas with little or no EV incentives, which would exacerbate socioeconomic gaps in available transportation options. The cost and accessibility of electric vehicles, EVs, call for a multifaceted strategy that incorporates business activities, government legislation, and technical developments. Through subsidies, tax breaks, and infrastructure investments, governments can significantly contribute to encouraging the adoption of electric vehicles, EVs, by lowering their costs and increasing their accessibility for a wider variety of consumers. Automakers should also concentrate on cutting the price of EVs by utilizing economies of scale, production efficiencies, and breakthroughs in battery technology. Additionally, increasing the infrastructure for charging EVs, especially in underprivileged areas, can improve their accessibility and reduce customer range anxiety. In order to hasten the switch to electric vehicles, two major obstacles must be addressed: affordability and accessibility. We can make EVs more inexpensive, accessible, and inclusive by removing these obstacles through concerted efforts involving governments, industry partners, and technological innovators. In the end, this will help to ensure a cleaner and more sustainable transportation future for everybody. Technological limitations. A major obstacle to the widespread adoption of electric cars, EVs, is technological constraint, which affects consumer confidence and adoption rates. Battery technology is one of the main issues, especially with relation to durability, charging times, and range. When compared to conventional gasoline-powered vehicles, electric vehicles, EVs, still have a limited range due to developments in battery technology. Range anxiety, or the worry that an EV won't have enough battery life to get to a destination or find a charging station, is still a common concern among consumers and might discourage them from thinking of EVs as a practical daily driver. Moreover, major technological obstacles for EVs include the infrastructure and charging times. Although recent advancements in fast-charging technology have resulted in a notable reduction in charging times, there are still obstacles in expanding the infrastructure to accommodate the increasing demand. Furthermore, since different standards and connectors are used in different areas and charging networks, EV owners may encounter difficulties with the compatibility and interoperability of charging stations. Customers' charging experiences are made more difficult by this fragmentation, which makes it necessary for them to switch between numerous networks and subscription services in order to access charging facilities, thereby discouraging uptake. Consumer opinion of EVs may also be impacted by worries about vehicle performance like as handling, acceleration, and driving experience. Even if EVs' performance capabilities have advanced significantly, some consumers might still believe that traditional gasoline-powered cars are still more reliable and have superior performance. Consumer preferences and adoption rates may also be influenced by the availability and cost of EV vehicles equipped with desirable features like autonomous driving capabilities and advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS, which can vary widely. It will take constant innovation and investment in battery technology, charging infrastructure, and vehicle performance to overcome technological limits. To improve the range, charging experience, and performance of EVs and make them more competitive and appealing than conventional vehicles, governments, industry stakeholders, and technological innovators must work together to develop solutions. By getting beyond these technical obstacles, we can hasten the shift to electric vehicles and fully utilize their promise to build a more sustainable and environmentally friendly transportation future. Alternative solutions. To address the issues affecting the transportation industry, it is imperative to investigate alternatives to electric cars, EVs. The development of shared mobility services and public transit is a viable substitute that can help lower pollution, traffic, and the demand for private vehicle ownership. In addition to providing sustainable options for short-distance travel, investing in the infrastructure for walking, cycling, and micromobility options also improves urban mobility and air quality. Furthermore, there are now practical choices for cutting emissions and making the switch to greener transportation thanks to developments in fuel-efficient and low-emission technology for conventional vehicles, such as hybrid and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Additionally, encouraging telecommuting and remote work arrangements as well as integrating smart transportation systems can help lower the total demand for driving, resulting in more resilient and sustainable transportation networks. Future transportation systems can be made more fair and sustainable by adopting a comprehensive strategy that incorporates several alternative solutions suited to certain urban and regional environments. Stay informed and explore the future of transportation with our exclusive content. Subscribe now to join our community of forward thinkers and receive the latest updates on alternative solutions, innovations, and trends shaping the mobility landscape.